Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a story that feels ripped straight from science fiction, but it's grounded in some pretty serious physics and, well, real-life mystery.
Absolutely. We're talking about Dr. Ning Li. You might have seen her name online, often with headlines like "The scientist who discovered anti-gravity and then vanished."
Exactly. She was a Chinese-American physicist, deeply involved with work at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, Rocket City, and later directly linked to the U.S. Army's Redstone Arsenal.
And that's where the story gets complicated. Our mission today is to unpack this. We've got the, let's say, internet lore, the conspiracy theories about her disappearance.
Right, the whole did she defect narrative.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Yep.
And we're comparing that against the actual verifiable facts. We've got published papers, DoD grant documents, and crucially, a 2023 interview with her son, George Min, who really wanted to clear things up.
So the big questions, did she really figure out something about manipulating gravity and what actually happened after she took that top secret defense contract? Did she just disappear?
Let's start at the beginning with her scientific work that first got noticed.
Okay. Back in the early 90s, say 1991 to 93, she and a colleague, Douglas Torr, published some papers. Peer-reviewed stuff.
Right, and these weren't just minor papers. They outlined a theoretical approach to creating, essentially, a practical anti-gravity effect. It was pretty bold.
How did they propose doing that? What was the mechanism?
It centered on high-temperature superconducting disks, or HTSDs. The theory was if you could get ions spinning inside this disk really, really fast,
Okay.
and critically get them aligned in a very specific quantum state called a Bose-Einstein condensate.
Whoa, okay, hold on. Bose-Einstein condensate. Can you break that down a bit? Sounds complex.
It is, but think of it like this. Usually, particles are individuals doing their own thing. In a Bose-Einstein condensate, which usually forms at super low temperatures, all the particles sort of lose their individuality and start acting like one single giant quantum wave.
So they're all moving in perfect sync.
Exactly. And Larissy theorized that if she could get these rotating ions into that synchronized state, their combined effect would generate a powerful repulsive force, a kind of anti-gravity field.
And they call this a gravitomagnetic field, acting against gravity.
Precisely. It would push things away perpendicular to the disk's spin. The early buzz, the stuff you saw in places like Popular Mechanics, was pretty wild.
Yeah, I remember reading something like she claimed a small device, maybe using a kilowatt of power, could just hover a bowling ball.
That was the claim, yeah. Suspended over a 1-foot diameter area. Very dramatic.
Okay, that's the sensational theory. Did she ever actually, show anything happening in a lab? Any proof?
Well, that's the crucial next step. She did claim empirical results. By 1997, she published a paper reporting anomalous weight changes.
Anomalous weight changes, meaning things got lighter.
Yes, specifically a test mass suspended above one of these spinning superconductors. She reported a weight reduction somewhere between 0.05% and up to 2.1%.
2%? That doesn't sound like levitating bowling balls, let alone tanks.
No, definitely not. But in physics, even a tiny repeatable effect that shouldn't be there, according to standard models, that's potentially huge. A 2.1% reduction, if accurate and repeatable.
Suggests the underlying principle might be real, right? That maybe you can influence gravity, even just a little bit.
Exactly. It suggested the theory wasn't just math on paper. There was something measurable happening, something that could perhaps be scaled up.
And I bet that kind of measurable result, even small, starts to get noticed by people interested in, say, advanced propulsion.
You bet. Which leads directly to the next major turn in her career. In 1999, she leaves the university, UAH.
Just walks away.
Not just walks away. She persuades the chair of the physics department, Larry Smalley, to leave with her.
Wow.
And they form a private company together, AC Gravity LLC.
That signals they were serious. They believed they had something more than just a lab curiosity.
Definitely. And the military clearly thought so too, because just 2 years later, 2001, AC Gravity lands a pretty substantial grant.
How much are we talking?
It was $448,970 from the Department of Defense, managed specifically by the U.S. Army Aviation and Missile Command at Redstone Arsenal, right there in Huntsville.
Okay, nearly $500,000. And we actually have some insight into why the DoD invested, right? What they thought the payoff could be.
We do. The internal DoD documents describe the potential benefits of generating artificial gravity fields as, and this is their word, enormous.
Enormous. What kind of applications were they dreaming
It
up?
was really ambitious stuff, new kinds of propulsion, obviously, but also things like fine-tuning the trajectory of missiles, maybe even countering enemy inertial guidance systems.
And the tank thing.
Yes, they specifically mentioned making heavy vehicles like a 70-ton tank effectively weigh much less. Imagine the tactical advantage of that.
Okay, but let's be real. The DoD funds a lot of speculative research, hoping for a moonshot. Does this grant automatically mean her 2.1% claim was fully validated?
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
It doesn't prove the physics was 100% correct and scalable, but it does prove the potential payoff was considered so high and her preliminary results credible enough that they were willing to invest significant money and, crucially, bring it into the classified world.
Right. They weren't just funding basic science anymore. They were funding technology development.
Based on her claims, yes, they saw a potential pathway to practical applications.
And then, the silence. The grant finished in 2002. She gives one last known public talk in 2003 at a conference run by Might Try.
Right, the title was Measurability of AC Gravity Fields. And importantly, she was presenting alongside an official from Redstone Arsenal.
And after that?
Nothing. Complete blackout. No more papers, no more public appearances related to this work.
It's like she just dropped off the map, scientifically speaking.
Completely. And it wasn't just public silence. There's an email from around that time, 2003, where she apparently mentioned observing an 11 kilowatts of output effect.
11 kilowatts? What does that even mean?
We honestly don't know the context. Was it power generated, power consumed, and effect size? It's a mystery. But it sounds like something significant might have happened in the lab around then and right after. Total lockdown.
And that vacuum, that lack of information, is fertile ground for speculation, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. By 2008, you start seeing people, even some scientists on the fringe like Jack Sarfati, claiming she disappeared.
And not just disappeared, but defected, right? Gone back to China.
That became the narrative,
Yeah.
that she'd taken the supposed anti-gravity tech to the Chinese government.
Mm.
Sarfati even claimed the Pentagon cannot reach her anymore. It sounded very dramatic, very spy thriller.
So this idea of her vanishing, maybe betraying the U.S., took hold online.
For years, yeah. It fit a certain narrative. Brilliant scientist, secret tech, international intrigue.
But the truth, according to her own son, George Men, is, well, much less dramatic and, frankly, much sadder.
Completely different. According to him, Dr. Lang never left the U.S. She never left Huntsville. She certainly never left the DoD's orbit.
She was right there the whole time.
The whole time. Her company, AC Gravity LLC, stayed registered in Alabama. Its business license was renewed every year until 2018. She didn't vanish.
So the disappearance was just security classification.
Pretty much. She obtained a top-secret security clearance. And with that came the absolute requirement of silence. No publishing, no talking about the work.
Her son mentioned she didn't like that part.
He said she found it very difficult. Apparently, she loved to publish her findings, loved the scientific exchange. Being forced into silence was a source of frustration for her.
What about the China connection, then? Was that completely fabricated?
Not entirely fabricated, but twisted. Her son confirmed that Chinese officials did approach her in 2008. They tried to recruit her to get her to come back to China.
And she refused.
She flat out refused. She chose to stay and continue her work under the DoD contract.
Were there consequences for that refusal?
There were. Tragically, because she wouldn't cooperate with the CCP officials, they barred her from traveling to China for her own mother's funeral.
Oh, wow. That's harsh. It really underlines her commitment, or perhaps the pressure she was under.
It shows the personal cost involved, and it highlights just how intense the secrecy around her work became. Her son shared a story about asking her about it.
Yeah. What did she say?
He asked cautiously, years into the silence, and her reply was chillingly direct. She told him, first off, you don't know anything. Second off, if you even think you might know something, you forget about it.
Total compartmentalization. Don't even think about it.
Exactly. That was the reality she lived in, dictated by the nature of her classified research.
So this brilliant scientist working on potentially world-changing physics under intense secrecy, how did her story end? It wasn't defection. It wasn't vanishing.
No. It was something completely unexpected and terribly mundane. In 2014, she was just walking across the street on the UAH campus.
Right back where her public career started.
Yeah. And she was struck by a car. Her son confirmed it was an accident caused by an undergraduate student driving on campus.
Just a traffic accident. After all, a high-stakes secrecy.
A random tragic accident, the kind of thing that happens every day.
And the tragedy didn't stop there, did it? It impacted her family profoundly.
It really did. Her husband apparently witnessed the accident, the shock, the trauma. He suffered a massive heart attack shortly thereafter and died about a year later in 2015.
Unbelievable. What happened to Dr. Li after the accident?
She survived the impact, but she suffered permanent severe brain damage. Her son said it resulted in Alzheimer's disease shortly after.
So the mind that grappled with manipulating gravity was essentially lost.
Effectively, yes. A
Mhm.
terrible outcome. She lived for another 6 years, cared for by her son. Dr. Ning Li passed away on July 27, 2021. She was 78.
And her son decided to speak out in 2023 primarily to correct the record, right? To
Yeah.
counter those conspiracy theories.
Precisely. He wanted people to know the truth. She wasn't a spy. She didn't disappear with secrets. Her disappearance was due to classification rules, and her life ended because of a tragic accident and its devastating consequences.
It puts a very human, very somber end to the mystery. The decade-long puzzle wasn't about espionage. It was about the extreme secrecy of advanced defense research, followed by immense personal tragedy.
Yeah, the personal story finds closure there, but the scientific thread that remains unresolved. What exactly did AC Gravity achieve under that DoD contract? What was that 11 kilowatts reference about?
We still don't know if she or her team actually managed to scale up that initial 2.1% weight reduction into something significant.
That knowledge, whatever it is, remains locked away in classified files. The Army clearly thought there was something there, something worth pursuing with nearly $500,000 back in 2001, something with potentially enormous implications.
So the key takeaway here is that while Dr. Li's personal story is concluded, the scientific questions raised by her classified work are still very much open, hidden behind that wall of secrecy.
Absolutely. The physics community is still exploring these kinds of effects, gravitomagnetism, potential ways to influence gravity. Her work, whatever its final success or failure, was deemed important enough to classify completely.
Which leaves us, and you, with a final thought to consider. Given the kind of revolutionary potential that DoD itself described, levitating tanks, new propulsion, controlling missiles, how long will the insights gained from Dr. Li's research, her life's work, stay behind that classified curtain before we see any hint of what they discovered? Something to think about.